One of the things that stood out to me from Graham Platner's remarks is that he told that audience of supporters at the Criterion there in Bar Harbor, "You have my back." Is that wishful thinking on his part, or do you think that that really rings true with his base of support?
I think it rings true. I think, however, if he had an R next to his name instead of a D, that those same people would be coming after him pretty hard and saying, this is not a person we want representing us. And his problem is partly because he's such a newcomer to politics, he has no record to run on. So more than ever, the spotlight focuses on who is he? What kind of person is he? How will he make his decisions?
Yeah, I mean, in his hometown right there, people do have his back. I think a lot of people do still. I think there are a lot of Democrats out there who still very much support him, have put a lot of hopes in him in terms of trying to be able to take down Susan Collins. But there's no doubt the questions are getting much deeper. I'm sure that he feels them. Those of us who are not part of the campaign, sort of outside looking in independently, are feeling that discomfort among Democrats. But Ro Khanna really had it right? Ro Khanna said, you have to believe the women, right? This is not okay to simply try to attack somebody. He had a difficult past. He's had some volatile relationships. How far those went or those didn't go, it's important that we recognize women don't make this stuff up almost 100% of the time when it comes out like this. So we need to respect that and decide whether to move forward.
I want to make sure that we bring in Phil Harriman here for some reaction, especially to Platner's remarks in front of supporters down east at that rally on Friday with Ro Khanna. Phil, what did you think of his suggestion that his support still exists here in Maine?
Well, I think people who are attending these rallies after what has unfolded over the last couple of weeks are definitely, by showing up, are standing up, and they do have his back. The question is going to become how many people out there who are processing what they've learned over the last couple of weeks are going to say, it doesn't matter what his ideology is, I am not going to vote for him.
Okay, more to come on all of this throughout our broadcast today. Guys, thank you.